if you're wondering how we ended up here, I saw a pretty illustration on Tumblr and decided, you know what, I'm going to try and draw it. First off, I tried drawing it on paper with just pencil, and you might be able to guess, fog and mist and small details don't always go well. Aren't necessarily the best match for a pencil and eraser, as well as just, my habit of only using one type of pencil, which might not have helped with the issue. That being said, it didn't turn out too bad. Like, half of it was okay, and then we got to the tree line, and then there was like an issue, and I ran out of room for the rest of it. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to paint it by color, picking from the original picture, which is why there's going to be a color picker going to the side all the time, because that's where the picture is. It's just I didn't record that one with OBS, or that window with OBS. So I'm color picking from the original photograph. Yes, this is a photograph. It looks really pretty. So kind of had to draw it. Also, it kind of fits the aesthetic that I'm going for, so it kind of helps my brain go like, okay, you can actually draw a background if I actually succeed in doing this, which I believe I did. So we're going to see. So first of all, I'm starting with the mist that is closest to the camera, because that is the most simple at the current point, and I'm working backwards. And that probably means that there's going to be points where I have to come back and try and blend them in a bit more, since the one closest to the camera is also the one overlapping with the most. And what the mist does is, it's just this myriad of purples and pinks that kind of almost have a waterfall effect that go down into this forest, and then disappear towards the edge of the canvas, and then just becomes a sea of clouds, and it looks really beautiful. But for it to work, you have to have the mist looking right. You have to have the clouds looking like clouds. You have to make the tree line look like trees and match well, and some of them poke out and some of them don't. And you have to make the trees that are just in between look like trees. And also, because it's a faraway picture, I'm like, how much detail do I have to put in the trees? Because I don't actually know how to draw trees that well, or clouds or mist. So this is all just like, what are we doing? Yeah. And I'm playing around with some of the watercolor brushes and like the smudge tool too, because I know the smudge tool has a bit of a bad rep, so I'm trying not to overuse it. But also I'm thinking, I put everything on a different layer, so if I don't like what the smudge tool does, I can just go back to what I had originally. It's on a different layer, and it's also in a different file, so if it makes it crash, I'm fine. Or if I like some areas and others I don't, I can just erase that layer. But since it is clouds and mist, I feel like I can get away with using the smudge tool at least a little bit, because it gives that kind of smudged feeling, which, if you've been in fog and mist, it looks like someone's just blurred your image and desaturated it, and you're like, can we move this layer so that I can see better, please? Not nice when you're in a car. I'm similarly with what I did with the skull, and generally with other stuff. I'm using the placement of the fog and the cascading mist as placeholders for where the trees are supposed to go, and then I can add in the trees and I can actually build a structure. This is kind of the sketch equivalent, but instead of it being a sketch, it is actually painted. And we are going into the point. I was hoping that I could just have the mist layer like half opacity, or have a different layer option that the trees are kind of see-through. I kind of ended up overdoing the intensity, or like the pressure of the brushes, and ended up with like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to actually put the trees in and then blend them in. So that's gonna take a while. That's gonna take a long time. And so the background was taken from just an area of the original picture that didn't really have any fog. That being said, that is also very similar to the color of the trees, because that's literally the area that the trees are in, so they are slightly difficult to see. And also at this point I was not sure how to draw them, so they ended up I was kind of also thinking, you can't really see them, so I don't really need to put that much effort into these little ones, but I do need to put effort into the ones being that are visible in the fog. Those need to be good, or goodish. And those I'm actually at this current point trying to match spike by spike and branch by branch, and tint to tint, which is, oh boy, can take some time. It also kind of feels like a strategy game, because you have to, with the trees, you actually have to draw the ones in the background before, or you have to draw the ones in front of said trees on a different layer, because you messed up, and now the ones that are supposed to be in the back are not in the back, and they're too dark, so now you have to put them in a different layer. And my audio crashed again, so that's not fun. Second time today, so that's the please do not crash the file, the entire thing, please. The reason I am doing adding the trees for the very front area first is because it is contained. There's literally like fog at the bottom, fog at the top, there's fog above it, and then trees. There's trees, there's fog, there's trees, there's fog, and then there's more trees, but the more trees are a lot. So I actually don't need to worry about matching everything, and I don't have to draw in the trees for the entirety of the tree line, because they're not going to be visible. So this kind of gives me room to, one, experiment without ruining everything. Two, once this is finished, I'm gonna get a sense of accomplishment and be like, yes, this works, this is how it's doing, I can do this, because it's done. And it gives me a sense of like knowing where I am in the picture, because I have a habit of like, if I start jumping around everywhere, I forget what I planned on doing, and then I'm like, I was going to do something, you don't look right, but I don't remember what I was supposed to fix about you. But now it feels like it's too late, or I get used to it, and I'm like, I don't see the thing that I missed before. Like, I actually had the fog a bit, the shape of the fog a bit wrong, so I was trying to fix that here while I'm still at this stage, because later on I'm just going to forget, because I won't be looking at this part of the picture, I'm going to be looking at the opposite corner. And There are some little lights here and there, so I'm adding those in because those do help. Those do like make the picture pop. They also are the reason that like some areas are more pink and more red, and which I hadn't, some areas I had realized, and then other areas I was like, that's why you're a reddish color. Oh, this makes so much more sense now. I didn't know it needed to make sense, but it does. And the background of the, or like the base of the main forest is a slightly different color, because the area closer, it's actually a slightly different color. The area closer to the camera is darker than the area behind. I did forget to press record, so there is quite a bit of the tree line shenanigans that is not there. There are also a few little homes that are very, very, very roughly placed. And what you need to know about the tree line is it's like a row of trees, or it's one or two rows of trees and then a new layer and more trees. And then every so often you copy the row of trees and move said layer lower or above, depending on where you need it to go. And you keep in mind which row of trees is darker than the other rows, and become more and more messy as time goes by, because trees aren't perfect and they don't have to look the exact same way. Now, what we are doing is figuring out how to mesh these trees with the fog. With it, while some of them being in front and some of them being further back, it is a nightmare in layers, and just trying more layers and other layers and doing this and that, and trying to make sure this tree doesn't clip that tree, and if it does clip, it isn't recognizable. And then thinking, the fog needs to come a bit more down, we need more mist, the color of the mist isn't wrong now, so we need to do something about that. Are we sure we're on the right layer? These lights need to be a bit more red or orange, and need to have more of an effect, because they have an effect. These trees are too high up in comparison to these trees, because these trees are supposed to be taller, and like there's a myriad of like small things that need to be fixed or dealt with or like kept into consideration, and you're like, one at a time, but I know I have to get to all of you at some point. And this is literally what I've been doing with every other one, with every single line. So I take the trees that haven't been used and I put them there so that they can be used, and I use slightly darker and slightly lighter trees so that they are able to be seen. So the trees that are, if there's a lot of same color trees, I put a tree in front of them that's a bit darker, or I put a tree behind them that's a bit darker so that it can be visible. Now the center mist was too opaque and grey, and just kind of looked like a blob of color instead of mist, which mist needs to feel like light and flowy and stuff like that. And you might realize that this is skipping through a lot of things. That is because every so often I would come back. Here's the thing, every day I came to this, I would stop, I would come back, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And I would forget to press record. So there's a lot, and I mean a lot, that it has not been recorded, which is probably a good thing, because this was already about 4 hours long. So let's go like 8 hours maybe. But that is pretty much the tree line. But now we need to get to the skyline, which is the clouds. So the way I mentally structure it is the foreground, this isn't the same for every single thing, every single scenery I draw. That's kind of what I did with this one. I had the foreground closest to the camera, the tree line or the tree area, which is the forest, and the clouds that go to the skyline, and then the city and the sky in the background. And that's what the slightly grayish purple thing at the top, line at the top is. That is going to be moved because it is in the wrong place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up putting the original picture on top of this picture and going, oh, that's where it's supposed to go. Okay, draw a line and continue from there. Now, all of this is going to be absolutely useless because it is in the wrong place. So what the clouds are kind of doing, they almost look like there's a canyon in it, or like at least two canyons. And the problem is the placement and the size of the canyon is wrong. And I did not realize this until I was mostly finished. And I actually decided to fix it because I was proud of myself for how far I've come, and I wanted it to look good, and I knew I wouldn't be able to live that down if that was incorrect, because it is one of the more eye-catching and like one of the points that draws the eye into the image. Now, the clouds shift from being purple and pink to being more blue and burgundy and lilac, that kind of colors, and there is a center area where the clouds almost look like they're concaving in themselves, and almost like there's a rock in between. I don't know what actually it is, but it looks like the clouds are going inside, and like, I don't know. But it's a lot darker, and some of the clouds have very dark areas, and then it becomes very light in some places and transitions, and then yeah, so it's all of these things trying to like, trying to add and making sure I'm adding them in the right order. Now, it's almost, I believe it's a sunset. So and as it goes away, there's quite a bit of distance, so foreshortening is a thing, and the color changes, the color of the sky changes, so I'm trying to get that in as well, while also just trying to get this current area of cloud looking correct. And this is when you get to realize, I think there might be a problem. And the thing is, because these are clouds, there's just a lot of non-solid shapes and a lot of just, people go cloud gazing and you can see different things. Yeah, think of that, but now you're trying to draw all of those different things at once. So sometimes you see something and you're like, okay, I get what that looks like, and then you look at it again and like, no. Slight problem. One of the slight problems was what the area that I'd given myself was, one, not enough in comparison to the original, and two, not enough in comparison to my drawing, because I ran out of room for what I needed to add, and I'd added everything that was the majority, but they were too close to the skyline, or like where I thought the city was going to go, so I had to I added more of the clouds so that I could just add more of the clouds and give them more space and give them like the distance, the illusion of distance that they deserve, which is where the problem with the sinkhole happened. And I actually did not notice how salty I was about this until like right now. And this is when I realized, oh, this is how much the sky is. Wow, the city and the sky. This city is very, very thin. So decided to add in the like sunsetty orangish hue, which comes at like very, very far back in first. And you can see how far like the sinkhole has moved from like being center being like further back to now it just seems like it's in the center, which it's not supposed to be. So because it is a more painterly image, I can try and work my way around it. I don't have to like erase, resketch, reline, repaint, reshade. It's not all of that. It's more like, you know, give me colors and I'll figure out which areas work, and I'll go over with more colors, and then I'll fix it eventually. It will be fixed. I will do a thing. Just do a thing. Now the thing is, I skipped over the majority of the last part, and that it was actually like the entirety of the sky, the mountains, as well as the city. And what we have here is just like the very end bits of me adding some stuff, of me using some extra, like, this is pretty much me going from, okay, this is what the picture did, and this is how the picture looked, to, okay, this is what I'm going to do because this is a different medium and I'm going to see if I can improve it. And so I'm using the smudge tool to like try and move some of the colors and try and blend them in a bit more, try and like, yeah, playing around. Some of them work, some of them don't work, some of them have an odd effect, some of them work quite well. Like the sinkhole looks better, looks like it's better blended, but I'm kind of like just mismatching and going, okay, which one's better, which one do I like, which one don't I like, and going backwards and forwards a lot to try and do that. I actually ended up going for like both of them, but one of them is like 32%, is at 32% opacity. And I also did something where I believe it's an overlay layer. I went over with an overlay layer and kind of added some, made the purples pop a bit more, and kind of, I mainly wanted it to, I guess I made it a bit more saturated, and I also made like the more opaque areas a bit more like darker, so that it gave the illusion that they were darker, and gave it a bit of another purplish like layer, because it kind of gives it a more of a magical feel, and that is what I was going for, and it looks pretty, and when you go backwards and forwards between them, this is the one that looks better. Yes, when you look at it from this close up, there are a few imperfections, but that might just be me overthinking things, because you're not supposed to look at it from this close up, you're supposed to look at it from further away. All in all, I am very pleased, because I did not think I would be able to do it. So it goes to show, try it out, it might go better than you expected. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. If you have like a project you have been dreading to start, or you haven't been sure if you are able to start, give it a try. It might not work, it might work. If it does work, you're gonna feel great. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. It's free. And have a wonderful day. See you later, and goodbye.